For now, it's about Brady actually getting himself to the point where he can be successful, where he can be comfortable, where he feels like he can do the things that he was able to do for 20 years with the New England Patriots. Byron Leftwich, the offensive coordinator of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who has been working closely with Tom Brady. Remember the incident where Brady accidentally walked into someone else's house thinking he was walking back into Leftwich's house back at the time when there was supposed to be no contact between coaches and players. Leftwich spoke on the challenges that Brady will be facing changing teams after 20 years. Here's Leftwich from yesterday.
I think the greatest challenge is just, he's been somewhere for 20 years. You guys know, some of you guys may have worked at the same job for 20 years. When you've done something for 20 years in one spot and there's a change, it's automatically different. Don't matter if it's for better or for worse, it's just different. And I try to communicate with him. I want him to just talk football. I know he's been saying things a certain way for so long. So when we communicate, we're able to just talk football because, realistically, we're all kind of running the same plays. It's when we call them, how we teach them, and how we're trying to attack them that's different. So it's not a play that he haven't heard of. It's not a play that he hasn't ran. Now we just got to figure out what he does well and make sure we run a lot more of those plays on Sunday than not.
And he's right. Football is football, but at the end of the day, you have to get the new quarterback comfortable with the new playbook, the new coaching staff, the new teammates, the new city, the new everything. Everything changes. You're used to doing things a certain way, and now it's all changing, and you have to get used to that on the fly in an offseason where you haven't even been in the facility yet because of the pandemic. Now, we've talked in the past about how Brady is taking the lead in working out with his teammates. But, Chris, what's the number one challenge? We've got some possibilities here. Let's start with the biggest deal of these. Playbook terminology, lack of familiarity with teammates. Can he do it without Bill Belichick, all of that noise? Facing the other teams in the NFC South? Or something that you have explained in the past, the swamp butt dynamic playing in Tampa, which is the biggest thing that he's going to have to deal with from an adjustment standpoint?
Well, as much as I'd like to sit here and have fun with the swamp butt part of it, he'll adjust to that. And, as we've seen, he's already got some tricks to lessen the sweat that's coming out of the center's, crack there anyways when you're taking a snap. But regardless, I think the big thing is, to me, Mike, is the language of the offense, the terminology, the playbook. You kind of heard Byron Leftwich just discuss that a little bit, how he's trying to talk football. Brady's been talking one way for 20 years, right? To use, for lack of a better way to kind of put this out there, yeah, he's been speaking English for 20 years. Now he's going somewhere else where, the dialect's a little different. He's speaking Spanish. He's going to kind of learn it on the fly here. And yes, he's not going to necessarily to be in the building every day, talking it with other players on a daily, consistent basis. So that will be the big thing, just flipping things around in his brain to go, oh, wait, okay, this formation meant this in New England, and now we call it this in Tampa Bay. So between that, Mike, and then I think there's even more to this. Then I think the next phase of it is the what do I want to say here? I had this written down, but the merging of the two offenses, I think, is the next thing, because I don't think Tom Brady can just run Bruce Arians' drop back, stand in there and get crushed offense. And I also don't think you'd be benefiting from Tom Brady and all that he can bring to the table if you made him do that all the time. So I would expect Bruce Arians and Byron Leftwich to go, hey, show me all those Wes Welker, Julian Edelman plays you ran over the years. And I think it's going to be about finding that merge point to where it works. And I think if they can find the right formula there, Mike, I think it helps Bruce Arians' offense. I think it helps Tom Brady. And it could be a match made in heaven there, where it could be the perfect type of offense that has a little bit of everything. Sorry for the long answer there.
No, that's fine. On the surface, it would be easier to assimilate Brady into the way the Buccaneers already do things. But it's smarter to have that mutual assimilation where Brady is learning the new coaching staff, the new teammates, the new playbook, the new terminology, but at the same time, the team is moving toward him. That's why they wanted him. They want Brady. They want what he does well, so they have to adjust their approach to mesh with what he does well. There's a middle point there, even though it spreads that burden onto a lot more people. It's a lot easier to just say, hey, we got a new quarterback. He's going to learn our offense. Everybody else keep doing what you've been doing. No big deal. And off we go. No, we want all the other players to shift toward Brady because they know the end result is going to be the team is better. And that's what makes it harder in a pandemic to get everybody where they need to be, because it's not just Brady becomes a Buccaneer, it's the Buccaneers also become basically Patriots.
Yeah, they're very real. And I think that was a great way to explain it, Mike. Yeah, guys like Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, they're gonna have new plays and things in the offense, and especially I think Chris Godwin, who plays that slot position and is obviously one of the best slot receivers in football. He is going to, I think, have a new group of plays that he's never really run or going to have an understanding for, and that's what it does think about the pandemic and no OTAs. You know, a lot of those plays too, and what made Brady so magical over the years is Welker and Edelman. Such smart guys, almost like an extension of the quarterback to themselves, to where they could always read the coverage in the middle of the field. And a lot of these times what these routes are called, for people out there who are wondering, jerk routes, because you try to make a guy in the middle of the field look like a jerk because the receiver will have the option to go basically 4 different directions. You have option routes, which is like a similar thing, but you can only go 3 different ways. And I think those are the big things you're going to see in this offense. I think it would only be smart for Tampa Bay. I think it's good for Tom Brady, of course, but I think it's best for that team and that offense to kind of merge that together. And I think it'll only make Brady better, and it's going to make the meat and potatoes, big Bruce Arians down the field passing plays better too, Mike, because it's going to give another element of the offense that teams are going to worry about. Now you're not worried about Bruce Arians going deep, 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 deep. All of a sudden you're going, man, Godwin's killing us over the middle, or underneath. And then all of a sudden, zoom, a laser goes by their head, and it's Mike Evans down the field for a 40-yard gain. And I think that's a pretty good combination.
Even though in so many ways Tom Brady looks like he was carved out of a rock, and he's a robot, and he's timeless and ageless, and he's so different than the rest of us mere humans. At some level, he is human, I suspect. Do you think he's nervous at all? What do you think he's feeling about this transition that he's going through after 20 years of being in the same place, doing the same thing with the same coaches, and not the same players, obviously, because they change, but everything's the same for him all the time. Now everything's different. Do you think there's going to be anxiety that will maybe even manifest itself in Tom Brady?
I mean, anxiety, maybe, and nervousness of the unknown a little bit, and probably the fact that he still hasn't met the majority of the coaches in the organization, and I'm sure there's still a ton of players he hasn't been around. So kind of wondering, whoa, what's it going to be like? What's the schedule? Maybe that. But, I mean, nervous, Mike? Like, this is one of the more conditioned nervous systems, I think, in America. You know, when you're talking about a guy who's 9 Super Bowls, and it seems like in every one of them he had the ball on the last drive of the game to go win it, and it never seems like he was nervous for 3 seconds in his life in any football game I've ever seen. I just think he's, 1, built for this type of stuff, and 2, you know, because of all the big moments and everything like that, I would think he's almost numb to the nerves of once he gets on the field and starts playing and throwing and doing things like that. That would be my take. You know, I can't speak to it. I don't know what it's like to be in a guy like Tom Brady's shoes. There ain't too many people on earth that can really, know what that feels like. But I would think, yeah, it's just the other stuff that's maybe nervous. It's not the football stuff. I think he'll handle that fine.
And you said he hasn't met a lot of the coaches. When you look at the entire Buccaneers coaching staff, I was just skimming through there. There's going to be multiple members of the coaching staff who are younger than Tom Brady, including Byron Leftwich, who entered the NFL 3 years after Tom Brady was drafted. 2003, one of the first-round picks that year. Rattle them off. The first-round picks were do you know?
Carson Palmer, Byron Leftwich, Kyle Bowler, and not Chris Sims. I'm still pissed off about it, Mike. Yeah, thank you.
All right, that's why I mentioned it.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.